Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video for Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U. This is Chapter 10, The Depths. In this chapter, you are now in Hell after Loki opened the gates in the last chapter, and I really like the look of this world. It's creepy, which it should be, and the world or the landscape morphs in a very organic way as you progress through it. A lot of kind of spiky centipede-like structures, and it's not a place you want to spend too much time in. Although it's the home of Rodin, who you will run into later, since the chapter is named after his shop. So there are several of these Muspelheim battles. None of them are anything like the one that I had trouble with in the last chapter, which is the one where you had to face 4 enemies and defeat them in a certain order to add seconds to your timer. That one took me a long time and was pretty brutal. And this one only got gold, unfortunately. It took some damage, kind of lazy. But for this particular first playthrough, I wanted to try to find as many of those as possible and get through them and obtain the items from those challenges. And they've been fun so far. I really want to go back to the first Bayonetta now to see how the Alfheim battles compare to these in terms of whether they're more difficult or not. And yesterday I actually did finish Bayonetta 2 for the first time. Loved it. I'll have more specific comments on the endgame chapters. But after I did beat it, I went back and loaded up the first Bayonetta for the Wii U. And so I played through the first couple chapters of it, and it just feels really slow. And I don't know if it's just because I don't have the accessories or any of the upgrades yet, but the combat just felt like it had a slower flow to it. It felt like it wasn't as responsive, and so I'm going to have to play through it more in depth and get through it and get more of those updates. I might just load up my 360 game, which I'm currently playing through on hard, but I just wanted to do it on the Wii U just because I do like the graphical polish a little bit more in terms of it having VSync, so there's no screen tearing. I did notice, though, on some of the bosses, like the first boss, I think, which is in Chapter 2, or maybe it's even Chapter 1, it slows down a lot, and I don't remember that happening in the 360 version. In some ways, it almost makes those big boss battles easier because I don't know if it's not dropping frames necessarily, but the speed at which it's updating or refreshing the screen is slower, so it just seems more sluggish, and I'll have to kind of compare the two to see if that's just me or an actual artifact of the port. So here, this almost feels, there's a few things in this chapter that kind of feel Zelda-like. And so here's a giant spider infernal that reminds me of it might be the first major boss in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I think it's Goma? I don't know. But very cool. I like the water and the fire, and he kind of spits these small spiders at you. But really nice. Everything in this game just continues to really look good. This chapter in particular introduces a good number of new enemies, not just this sub-boss, but several smaller enemies as well that are challenging in their own right, some more than others, and one in particular resulted in my first continue in this game. I think it was my first continue. At least it was my first instant death continue, which kind of pissed me off a little bit. I'm not a fan of instant deaths like that because they will really knock down your final chapter rating by, I think, a full rank. So I think that by the end of this chapter, I should have had at least a gold, but I ended up getting the not Loki, but the Luca Silver Award. And so, yeah, I wasn't too happy about that, but hey, lesson learned for next time. And so that enemy is, I think, coming up pretty soon. So I continue to collect the pieces of book. You can destroy those objects around the environments. Something else I noticed going from Bayonetta 2 to Bayonetta 1 is that the area exploration is a lot cleaner, or at least it seems a lot cleaner in Bayonetta 2 than it was in 1. I mean, just exploring the areas that were from the Bayonetta 1 demo, as you're in the courtyard, jumping behind small fences and things like that, the camera has problems keeping up with you and finding the right angle to see Bayonetta. And I find that the environments here are just, I guess, better designed, and so I didn't or haven't run into that problem too much in this game. And so props to Platinum for making improvements to that aspect of this game, which I really enjoy. I like exploring each of the chapter areas and trying to find all the hidden items and Muspelheim challenges and hidden verses. Speaking of hidden verses, sorry that I keep going back to Bayonetta 1, but it's fresh in my mind. Actually, I'll come back to that. But here, Resentment, I believe this is the enemy that kills me. So here, he turns you into little cute Cereza from Bayonetta 1. She's awesome. But here, sucks me in, and game over. I was like, what the heck is that? So yeah, my first continue in the game, and yeah, I was a little stunned that this enemy was resulted in an instant death. So I didn't let that happen again, but yeah, that did affect my final rank, and yeah, not that I'm bitter. So yeah, going back to Bayonetta 1, what was I talking about? Let me think. So funny. Sorry, it's early in the morning. No coffee yet. But yeah. Oh yeah. So in Bayonetta 1, the hidden verses. So there is, I think, a 2 hidden verses in the first chapter of Bayonetta, and I could have sworn I explored those stages super thoroughly, didn't leave any nook or cranny unexplored, but I got to the end and I missed verse 3 and verse 5, and I'm like, what the heck, I went everywhere. So I went to trusty GameFAQs and took a look at one of the guides, and for that third one it says you have to activate the elevator and then run back to where you got the key to get verse 3 to activate. And I know I mentioned this in an earlier Bayonetta 2 video, but wow, talk about kind of crappy design. I just, that seems so incredibly random to me. Who's going to find that on their own? Maybe people have that do things like that in games where they will unlock a door or do something and then run all the way back and explore every little alcove and stuff again. But dude, that is just bad design in my book, and I'm hoping that as I go through this game a second time, and if I miss some verses and I just happen to make a wrong turn somewhere, fine, but I'm hoping there's none of those where you have to activate something and then run back to an earlier section of the game and trigger something that wasn't there before. That's just lame. And so, sorry, Platinum, but yeah, I did not like that in Bayonetta 1. And the same thing happened for verse 5 in Chapter 1. There is, I believe you had to do something and then run back And so that sort of backtracking, arbitrary backtracking, is something I don't really care for at all. So sorry, I went on a bit of a soapbox about some of Bayonetta 1's design. But yeah, in this, kind of getting back to this video, this is a long chapter. This one is contains a lot of combat, a lot of exploration, and there's a lot of items to find, and there are the fragmented chests. I think there's one of them. There might be more, but there's at least one fragmented chest where you have to collect the 5 pieces to collect the item, which I believe might be a broken witch heart, or one of the pearls. And so here I completed the album, the 3rd piece there, and I spend a little time going back and finding these chests that I could see off in the distance, but I just happened to miss, so I had to go back and figure out where they were. And so this one completed another moon pearl, and I got I'm working on the 3rd row of magic. You can get a lot of magic and health in this game, which is always helpful. And so here, Sloth, this is another enemy that kind of gave me a bit of a Zelda vibe. I'm not sure what it is about him. It might have been something from Skyward Sword. Some of the designs kind of had that style. So really like him. He's fast, and he's good at defense, moving out of the way of a good number of my attacks. I really like these hand-to-hand fights. As much as I appreciate the big spectacle of the bosses, these are just super exciting to me, and they are, in my opinion, a lot more active and require a lot more a better and more frequent response time. And I could be wrong, but they just have a more I don't want to say personal, but much more intimate feel. And I think in that sense, and for that reason, they're a lot more rewarding to me. So I could have got a pure platinum on that, but it took too long. Here's one of those chests that you got to go collect the 5 pieces. So I show where the pieces are, and you got to go backtracking pretty far. And once you get them, you'll unlock that, and I think in this one is a broken witch heart. Yep. So a little bit more exploring. You trigger another hidden verse going up one of these side paths. So this battle actually does last for quite a long time, so I cut in between. And once you take this group out, you will get another quarter piece of a broken witch heart, or just a witch heart. And you move on. So yeah, at this point, 10 chapters in, there are 6 more, and the ones coming up, there are some pretty short. Wow, bronze on damage. There's a lot of shorter chapters coming up. So yesterday, I was at about this point when I began the day, and I just blew through the rest of the game. It was super fun. And as I mentioned in the last video, there are things that they reuse from Bayonetta 1 for the purpose of moving the narrative ahead. But yeah, it just has a good pace. There are some things I don't like, but for the most part, it's really well done. And I'll talk about this more in detail. And there's the boss from the Arc chapter. And so this is kind of a throwback to the prologue. You're fighting on top of the boss. Looks very similar, except this time you have the help of Rodin, who is seriously crazy powered. And I know you can fight him in the first Bayonetta. I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm guessing the same is true for here. It'd be interesting if you could actually play as him in this game too. I don't know if you can. I haven't done that much research on it. But yeah, getting back to the end game, it's very different from Bayonetta 1. Bayonetta 1, everything kind of culminated in this gigantic boss battle with Jubileus, and it's really good and it's fun, but it's long. And the final boss battle in Bayonetta 2 is not. It's really, I think, perfectly paced, in my opinion. It does feel a bit like, okay, I've done this before, but at the same time, it's still really fun, rewarding, and does its job in providing good excitement at the end of the game. So yeah, I'll have more comments on that once we get there. And, just take care of these last two enemies. Rodin makes it very... he just kills them. And then you're kind of heading into the final arc of the game here. So I got gold on that, even with Rodin's help, so I guess that wasn't very good. And yes, overall I get silver. I missed one of the verses. I don't know which one I missed, so I'll have to kind of go back and take a look. One pure platinum on the Alfheim, and mostly golds. So anyway, that's chapter 10, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for hanging out.